I'm Bob Bolton from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and this is Alaska Voices, a place for communities to connect through conversation in order to build a better tomorrow for Alaskans and the world.
Originally, I grew up in Gakona, Alaska,
Tyonek, Egypt,
Idaho,
Rampart,
St. Lawrence Island,
St. Paul.
and I'm here with my student,
my science buddy,
my teacher,
my homie.
I'm his daughter.
My name is Terry Chapin. I'm 73 years old, and I'm glad to be meeting with Scott Rupp, my friend and colleague for many years.
I'm Scott Rupp. I'm 50 years old, and I'm sitting here with my longtime mentor and colleague, Terry Chapin. Terry was a main driving force behind SNAP, the Scenarios Network for Alaska and Arctic Planning, when we sort of brought it up as a grassroots thing and were able to get buy-in from university leadership to provide some funding to move forward. Now in the more senior end of your career, you've really moved towards focusing on the societal importance of science, and I think most interestingly, making those direct connections with communities and people. Is that something that just evolved and perhaps you're just following what was fun and exciting to do, or did you also see perhaps that there was a need to push that way and you were at a point in your career where you could afford to put more energy into those aspects?
I was just starting college. I was concerned about social issues. I grew up in a segregated town and a segregated high school. And I got concerned about that stuff at one point and got involved in sit-ins and demonstrations and was arrested a couple of times. I had a social conscience at that point, but then my science always seemed completely separate from that. I never thought about applying a social conscience to the science I did. I sort of meandered through science doing what seemed interesting and novel at the time. And almost always what I learned was that the things I was doing in retrospect weren't very important. It became really clear that ecosystems are changing fast, and a lot of that has to do with human activities. And so unless I could begin to think about the integration of human activities and ecological processes, I wasn't really getting to the issues that are driving the exciting questions of science today. I guess I'm more and more impatient with the slow pace of science and feel like with the rate at which the world is changing these days, we really need to make progress.
It's a long game, right? And it does seem like we don't have the time to continue to follow that, but the institutional structures that are set up, at least for me, seems to be like one of the biggest challenges.
I'm just amazed at the way you've built up SNAP as a resource of science for non-scientists, for people who want information about how to make their decisions. What made you shift towards making science relevant to society?
The more that I was made aware of just how much people at the community level needed this information for various sorts of planning, whether it's personal or municipal or state or even national, it seemed like we needed to make a conscious effort to really focus on developing products and information.
You've been very good at reaching beyond the university, and the things that you've done with USGS and other agencies have been the kind of thing that often the university doesn't do very well. How have you managed to make that work so effectively?
So SNAP came online as the Bush presidency was ending and we were going into the Obama years. There was a switch in the government in terms of a cognizant focus on climate change and climate science being part of the decision-making process of the federal government. And so I don't know how unique it is to Alaska, but I just met really interesting, passionate people that were working at the ground level here in Alaska for these agencies And it was really easy to start collaborating with them because they were fun people to work with and excited. And it felt like what we were doing had immediate and direct relevancy to decisions that were being made at the federal level. And that was pretty exciting. Now that's something that we've got these long-term relationships within agencies. And even though the people have begun to change, those relationships are still pretty solid.
I've never worked with agencies at the level that you have, and I admire you for being able to do that, but I've gotten really excited about working with some of the communities rather than thinking of the university as a group that would provide knowledge and through outreach to the communities, try to turn that around so it was the communities reaching in, just as you were saying earlier, for information they wanted. It was exactly analogous to what you said about SNAP.
A big part of science, or at least science that's fun and productive and relevant, is actually making sure you spend time and energy on developing personal relationships, whether it's with your colleagues or agencies or communities that you're interacting with. But it seems like in this fast-paced world we live in today that it's easy to dismiss the time and effort it takes to do that.
That's right. And it seems important to undertake those relationships with people that have similar goals and a similar willingness to let go and trust the other person to work with you for the best interests of society and for the efforts that you're trying to do together jointly. And it's got to be fun.
Well, this was fun too. Thank you for having this discussion.
It's been fun, Scott. That's been the best part of this conversation, is just having a chance to talk about things that we haven't talked about for quite a while.
Alaska Voices builds bridges by creating a space where community members, friends, policymakers, and scientists can share stories and place-based knowledge. This project was developed in partnership with StoryCorps and was funded by the Alaska Climate Adaptation Science Center. Additional funding was provided by the University of Alaska Fairbanks Chancellor through a generous gift from the Bentley Family Trust. Alaska Voices would not be possible without the help and efforts of an amazing group of people. Our producer and audio engineer is Kelsey Skonberg of Mossy Stone Media. Our podcast and outreach specialist is Michael Delu, and our website designer is Carolyn Rosner. If you are interested in more conversations or information, please visit our website at alaskavoices.org.